That's right, folks. Another episode of the Razzball Fantasy Football Podcast. And this week we're breaking down the top DFS plays and the NFL pick'ems for the wild card round this weekend. All this and more starting right now on the Razzball Fantasy YouTube channel.
What up, everybody, and welcome back to the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. I am your host, Sky Guasco. You can find me on Twitter at SKYGUASCO, joined by the rest of the Quad Fathers. We got the first quad box in a handful of weeks. Derek Favret up in the top here, the sleeper goat, which I said I wouldn't mention, but that's just one time. We're going to leave it there. Derek _ Favret, that's Favret as in title. And we got Matty Styles coming out of retirement just for this show, fresh off the beach. Appreciate that. We're going to talk to Matt about his beach trips. That was Styles 08. And then, of course, the boss that makes it happen, Bobby Lamarco, BOBBYLAMARCO. Find everything Razzball at Razzball NFL on Twitter. And, of course, you can find us on the podcast as well. That's the Razzball Fantasy Football Show, anywhere you listen to your audio. We got a good one for you tonight. We're super excited to get into the NFL playoffs. We talked about our roster breakdowns last week. We talked about our titles that we brought in, those hashtag Razzball titles. We're not going to do a Week 18 recap because you shouldn't have had a Week 18 anyway. But for those of you that brought home the ship in Week 18, welcome in and congratulations. We're turning the page slowly to 2024. But we're going to stick in 2023 through the Super Bowl. And, of course, I want to give a shout-out to our friends with Dynasty Diehards. They have their own Dynasty show right here on the Razzball. So you can check out all your Dynasty content with those guys. We're going to take you in more of a redraft approach as we do through the off-season as the playoffs as we turn into 2024. Gentlemen, excited for some NFL playoff football. Tonight, we're going to be breaking down a prediction for the full playoff scope, just to get it on record. We're going to go game by game in the wild card round, the super wild card round. Of course, again, we have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday football coming up this week. And then we're going to give our predictions all the way through the Super Bowl, the big game, if you will, for all of us. And on top of that, we're going to help you set our DFS lineups as well. So we're going to break it down game by game, Houston, Cleveland, Kansas City, Miami, and so forth. As we go that direction, we're going to let you know if we have any DFS players in those matchups. As we do, we're going to go around the quad box and let you know who we have. And then, of course, we'll have a DFS recap at the end to help you set those lineups. Let's go around the box real quick here. Derek, Patty, and Bob, we got a big one for you. Derek, welcome in. Are you ready for some playoff action?
Let's do it. This should be fun.
Matty Styles, welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for carving out some time from your vacations there. Happy holidays, and welcome back in, my man.
Appreciate it. On my time away, remember we've given a couple of nicknames. Derek, we're going to have to figure his out with the goat behind him. We've got two Parms to my left, or actually to my right. I've come up with one for you if you're ready. Sky Gasco, because the kids are using gas in place of lit or fire, and you're gas in my book.
This podcast is giving me gas right now. Let's keep it up with this, all right?
Count it.
You must have had a shot of milk before the show, Bob.
That's my favorite, by the way. That's my go-to. That's what gets me amped before the big podcast.
Yep.
This shot
Two
of milk.
Parms.
I love that. I'm all about the gas, Matt. Let's make it happen. And Bob, as I bring in here, I'll put you on the spot. You did not have time to prepare for this, but you're professional. This is how we do it on the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. Quickly, rank in your top 3 season-long dynasty, whatever you'd like. Hemp, almond, rice milk. Give me your top 3.
Hemp, baby. You know, listen, there's some nice conspiracy theories behind hemp. I like it. I'm going to go promote hemp right now. You know, Big Dairy didn't want hemp to be a thing back in the day. I don't know. I'm just going to start conspiracy theories on here. That's what gets the view count up. Other than that, I'd rather focus on football and keep my soy almond. Almond would probably be on the top of the list, though.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And a sleeper there is cashew milk, folks, as well. Well, let's get into it. We got a number of questions coming in already, as we do. Jamie popping in quickly. Packed house tonight. That is absolutely true. We got the Week 18 championships suck beep. Jamie, this is a children's show. If we could keep the profanity to a minimum and let Matt Stiles handle all of our cuss words, I'd much appreciate that. So thank you so much for hanging out with us. For those of you on the tune, again, you can follow us everywhere. Drop a comment. Let's get into it, boys. We got a long one for you tonight. Derek, I'm going to start with you. We got our playoff brackets out in front of us. We got a lot of great matchups, a ton of great storylines. The NFL scripters are on point as we head into the NFL playoffs. We're excited about all of these revenge games all over the NFL playoffs. And, of course, we have our DFS lineups ready to go. We are using DraftKings for this particular conversation. We are not a sponsor, or they're not a sponsor of us yet, in parentheses. But we decided to use them. We're going to bounce around the DFS platforms because we like to use a bunch of different ones and have some fun. So if you're using FanDuel or something else, price points may vary, that kind of stuff. But for this particular conversation on the show, we're using DraftKings. D, I'm going to let you kick it off here, man. Let's talk Houston, Cleveland to kick off the AFC bracket here. Number 4, Houston comes in, and we have number 5, the Cleveland Flaccos coming in here. Who is your winner for this game? Just straight up pick them. We're not doing any lines, any of that kind of stuff. Who wins the game in your particular bracket? And then do you have any fantasy players in your DFS lineup for this week? I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, so this is going to be a fun game. I mean, we talk about old versus new, between Flacco and CJ Stroud. So I'm really looking at the quarterbacks here. I don't have either one of them in my DFS lineup. In fact, I don't have any players from this game in my DFS lineup. But this is definitely going to be a fun game to kick off the schedule. Again, I'm big fan of Joe Flacco, big fan of CJ Stroud. Of course, Cleveland's got the defense. Should be a pretty good game, but I do have Houston winning this one in a very close game. Should go right down to the wire.
Love that. And Derek, you and I were talking pre-show, so we got one for Houston there. So update your brackets as you like to go along. You and I were talking pre-show, and I try to bake this in a little bit of my thought process, but as hard as you make your predictions for the full playoffs, and Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this. Every single season, we have 6 games this particular week, but then, of course, throughout the whole playoffs, we seem to have a number of upsets happen, right? Injuries or just certain teams are hot. They have a lower seed, but we see them come over the top, matchups, whatever, home field advantage, yada, yada, weather comes into play. There always seems to be upsets, especially in wild card weekend. But when you're looking at matchups, it's kind of hard to find that underdog opportunity. So do you see the Browns overtaking Houston here, or are you going to stick with Derek and go with the favorite in Houston?
There's going to be at least one upset based on the numeration of the seedings. It's not going to be the Browns. Joe Flacco has nothing to lose. Joe Flacco throws 50 times a game. And with that, I wanted to find a way to get Jerome Ford into my DFS, but instead I went with the absolute gas combo, right? A tornado and a slushy, if you will, at the 7-Eleven. And that's Joe Flacco and David Njoku. And I don't know what type of analysis I can give you other than they are just in sync, in tune, in utero. Shout out to Seattle grunge scene. They are what you want to see going into the playoffs. So I figured take a lower priced quarterback, maybe a slightly higher priced tight end that have a fantastic matchup and that have clicked. So give me those two, and Jerome Ford is kind of an outlier. Could probably squeeze him into flex, but not with 2 Browns already.
All right, so again, you're going to go with Flacco and Njoku, so you're saving money at both positions. I love that. So right off the bat, you're taking the value at quarterback with Joe Flacco, of course, and then you're also going to take Njoku. And then, so sorry, do you have Cleveland, or you're going to say even with them in your DFS line, you're going to go Houston?
I'm going with the Browns.
Going with the Browns with the upset. I love to hear that, folks. You come to Razzball for the fantasy football specialty. Okay, that's what we do here. We're professionals. But with Matt Stiles, you're going to get your 90s and 2000s music commentary as well. So shouts out to our friends in Nirvana and In Sync. Well done there, Matt. Bob, let's go to you here. We got number 4, Houston, number 5, Cleveland. Who you got?
Well, this is a rematch, obviously, from a few weeks ago. We saw there was no C.J. Stroud in that game, but the Texans were home with Case Keenum. The Browns won pretty handily, 36-22. That's the game where Amari Cooper, 11 catches, 265 and 2. So that was a huge game for Flacco on the road. And to be honest with you, that's why I'm going with Cleveland as well, picking Cleveland. I think the Texans definitely are on their way up, right? And I think they kind of overachieved a little bit this year. But the new first-year head coach, first-year quarterback, I think getting to the playoffs was huge for them. And I just think Joe Flacco, I'm feeling Flacco. That being said, there's a huge caveat. There's so many big-time players with injuries this week. Amari Cooper's questionable. A.J. Brown, you name it. Every freaking good receiver is questionable this week, essentially. So that's stuff that we'll have to look at later in the week. But the Browns are -3 on the road, which is interesting. But I do like the Browns. For my DFS lineup, I actually did – what Matt said, but I got Flacco and Ford into my lineup for this one. Obviously, the last time they faced off, he didn't do much on the ground, but he did find the end zone. So I do like that for that. I think this will be a nice high-scoring game in that sense. So I'm going to go with Joe Flacco because I want to pay down for quarterback. I would love to get Dak in my lineup, but unfortunately, because of some of the pricing, I had to go with Joe Flacco.
Love that. So again, you're going with the Brownies, and you're going with Flacco and Ford, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Love that. All right, so we have 2 Browns stacks. I also am going to go with one of the Browns players. I'm going to go with the Browns with the upset as well. So we actually have 3 of the 4 of us taking the 5-seeded Browns over the Houston Texans. Shouts out to our boy Jamie, who's been a weekly participant on our show. Big Browns fan there as well, giving us a shout out. So Jamie, we got your back on this one. For me, there's a lot of things that come into play. First of all, it's a seasoned coaching staff and a seasoned roster with Joe Flacco. It's not a tongue-in-cheek joke anymore. He's been playing lights out for the last 2 months, or a month and a half, I should say. I love CJ Stroud, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, maybe there as well. Great team and story. Love Nico Collins next year, Tank Dell, what have you. But ultimately, I think the veteran team makes the win here. I think that the Browns edge them out. So I'm going to go with the Browns over Houston. In my DFS lineup, I just have one single player. That's also Ford. So 3 of us have Ford in the lineup there. 5,500 with your running back. So really out of that top tier running back, saving a little bit of quiche there. In my original lineup, gentlemen, I did actually have a Flacco, Amari Cooper stack, but then I'm not 100% confident that Amari Cooper is going to be 100% healthy. And therefore, I might fade Flacco just a bit as far as the stack goes. I like to have that quarterback stack, so I found somebody else, which I'll get to later. But for me, I'm going to go with the Browns as well to make it a 3 out of 4, and Jerome Ford as one of my running backs there at the 55 slot. So again, 3 of us have the Browns over the Houston Texans. Derek, I'm going to turn it back to you. Let's go to Kansas City and Miami. This one in the frozen tundra of Arrowhead Stadium. And of course, you got the Miami Dolphins coming up from Florida in what should be by far the coldest game outdoors in Kansas City. Number 3 Chiefs backing into the playoffs. The number 6 Miami Dolphins getting upset there last couple of weeks. So they're kind of faltering a bit, but they did sneak in the 6th seed. Who do you got with KC and Miami?
Yeah, if this game was being played in Miami, my answer might be different. But not only are the Dolphins going to Kansas City where game time might be in the single digits or worse, but coming from Miami, and they're banged up. I mean, I expect them to have some of their weapons back, but their defense especially still is banged up, missing some key players. Offense is banged up. And the Chiefs are beatable, no question. And we'll probably talk about that when we get a little further into the playoffs. They're beatable, but probably not this weekend. There's just too many factors against the Dolphins. I mean, they lost their playoff game last week against Buffalo. If they won that game, then their playoff experience is a whole different one. But having to go to Kansas City this week in the situation they're in, I have to go with the Chiefs. And that takes me to my DFS lineup. I've got Isaiah Pacheco as my first running back. Last we saw Pacheco, he was rushing for 130 yards and added 7 receptions for 35 and a touchdown. This was all against Cincinnati back in week 17. Didn't play last week because, he didn't need to. So I have Pacheco in my running back slot, and I have the Chiefs defense at 2,900. I needed a cheap defense. $2,900 works for me. In my build, I've got the Chiefs defense and Pacheco at 6,400.
Love it. So going Chiefs all the way there. First DST block there. Man, Pacheco's so fun to watch run. When I was a kid, Adrian Peterson was like of course he was amazing, but watching him run, he just ran harder than everybody else, it looked like. So fun to watch those kind of players. Matt, who do you got in KC and Miami?
Everything Derek said. I'm not rostering Pacheco or the Chiefs D, but I don't have an argument against either one. Pacheco runs like he's not the same athlete as Roger Craig.
True, he's not.
Yeah, so you get that, Sky. Bob's probably too young to know who Roger Craig was. Roger Craig, both a 1,000-yard receiver, 1,000-yard rusher.
The first one, by the way. The first one
ever
to do that.
And Derek, quick quiz. Who's the other Roger Craig?
Baseball manager for the Giants.
Yes, and I believe for the Tigers at one point. What was his famous pitch that he brought to the Bigs or that he promoted?
I don't know that.
Spitball, splitter. Nice.
You stumped me.
Splitter.
I believe it's the split finger that was his big.
I was going to say the beanball.
If it wasn't that, it was the knuckle curve, but I'm pretty sure it was a splitter. Bob, over to you. I've provided nothing football related to this discussion. Chiefs for me, but no Chiefs or Dolphins in my DFS. The Dolphins are fit to get run out of Kansas City.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue with the Dolphins has been their struggles against winning teams this season. So they have not gotten over that hump. It seems like every time they do face a good team, I mean, they did beat the Cowboys a few weeks ago at home, but they are not playing at home. So I just think that for me, from just a straight pick'em standpoint, I know Kansas City took a step back, but I don't think it's a wild card step back. I think when they get to the Final Four, the divisional round, that's when the Chiefs will get knocked off. They might be on the road, which is another big factor for them too. So I'm going to take the Chiefs as well. I did have the Chiefs defense as well in this one, so that I'm going with Kansas City just because I need to buy down a little bit at defense because some of the receivers I took. So I do like Kansas City at home with Waddle being banged up and Raheem Mostert.
Love that. And boy, talent-wise, Miami could certainly show up and play, but again, the weather really comes into play here. And I say this every single Sunday morning when you start talking this time of the season about late November, Thanksgiving on, indoor teams playing outdoors in the cold, and then Miami and Tampa Bay are kind of that other exception of they're not indoor teams, but they're summer league teams in November, December, but now they're going into Kansas City, which is going to be pretty brutal. Look, I know Mahomes has been fine. The team has not been what the Chiefs have been. Travis Kelce has been borderline a bust down the stretch here for fantasy football, considering who he is. But if there's a game to get right and for these guys to shape up before the playoffs here at home, I think it's a massive Travis Kelce game. I think they're going to run the ball quite a bit, and I think they get out of there with a win. So I'm also going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a sweep for all of us there, going 4 for 4 with KC over Miami in this game. And my only DFS player is going to be Travis Kelce. I spent up there that 6,100, right? So that's a massive piece of my roster entirely. So that's going to be a quad box for the KC Chiefs, which we appreciate here, of course. Thank you, Bob, for the cue there. And then Travis Kelce is going to be my guy, dusting off the rust, and I think is going to be just fine in playoff form. And he's going to, I think, help all of those fantasy managers who have been slogging it for the last 6 weeks for him. So I'm going to go with KC to make it a quad box and Travis Kelce as my tight end there. Beach is checking in for the evening as well. And, of course, Jamie there with us. Now, folks, we're not going into the spreads. We're not doing Vegas pick'ems and stuff like that. This is just for a time for a different show. But we are putting up here the lines on the screen. So if anybody's interested in placing those bets or doing whatever, right? We don't have sponsorship with any of that, so I'm not going to do those shout outs. But if anybody is interested, we do have the favorite there and the over-under. So if you're interested in making those calls, go for it. All right, boys, let's wrap up the AFC for Super Wild Card Weekend. That's going to bring us to the number 2 Buffalo Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Both of these teams have been incredible down the stretch here. First of all, Buffalo in Week 10 was 6-6. They went and ran the table basically with some massive wins. Not only do they get into the playoffs, which they were kind of on the outside looking in there for a while around Thanksgiving, but they have won and beat playoff teams, mainly Miami last Sunday night, getting them not only into the playoffs, winning the division and the number 2 seed, which means the playoffs go through Buffalo outside of Baltimore. So Baltimore gets knocked off somehow. The playoffs will run through Baltimore, Buffalo, assuming they keep winning. And then Pittsburgh, who I don't think anyone gave a shot at the beginning of the season, certainly not halfway through the season, on their third quarterback. And wouldn't you know it, Mason Rudolph is making it happen. And the Najee Harris has come to life. This defense has gotten right at the right time, but their big dog is not going to be in. That's TJ Watt, missing this game, already out for this matchup here. So we got the number 2 Buffalo Bills hosting the number 7 Pittsburgh Steelers, but you can never really count out Mike Tomlin and the boys. Derek, is this a chalk pick with Buffalo, or do you feel some Pittsburgh magic here?
Well, we got to hand it to Pittsburgh. I think all of us here just a few weeks ago really left them out for dead when they had to go to Seattle and win, and go to Baltimore last week, although, many of the Ravens weren't playing. They had to win both of those games, and they needed help to get in. And all of that got accomplished. You mentioned Mason Rudolph, but the other common denominator in that run from the Steelers is Najee Harris, and he's in my DFS lineup as my running back 2 at 5,400. I needed a little bit cheaper option. Najee gives that to me, but the probably more than anything, the reason why, like you said, he's found his run again. Last 2 games, 122 yards and 2 touchdowns, 112 yards and 1 touchdown with 5 receptions and 21 yards. So if you do the math real quick, that's 24 PPR points in the last 2 games each. So he's hot right now. Pittsburgh's playing well. They're winning. I expect them to continue doing what they do, and I'm hoping that Najee turns in a pretty good performance. But Buffalo's still going to win this game relatively easily. They're just playing lights out right now. They're probably playing arguably the best football. You could make a case for the Ravens, but I'd say the Bills, they've got the number 2, so they're the home seed for the next 2 rounds. That's going to play in their favor. And Pittsburgh, it's a great story, but their run is going to end up in Buffalo.
1 for Buffalo. Styles?
Make that 2 for Buffalo, and I think that the Steelers will be the team that takes the biggest beating this weekend. My in-laws, my family, right, they're all Pittsburgh fans. They're all going to go down and watch at their Steelers club, and they're going to probably leave by the middle of the third quarter. I just don't think it's going to happen. I would say if Baltimore was not in the picture, I would place I'd split a bet with Derek, and we'd take the Bills to win the Super Bowl. Right now, there's just no team playing as well as them. And frankly, I wanted to find a way to get James Cook in my lineup. I just couldn't do it. Tells me that DraftKings knows that he's worth what he's doing right now. Turns out he was like the number 4 overall running back in fantasy, or at least in rush, and he did nothing, right? We faded him every weekend on our show. So I'm with Derek. I'm going to go with another hot hand, and that hot hand is Najee Harris. Give me all the touches that he can get. Spoiler alert, I have him in my flex position at 5,400, which will tell you that I've got 2 running backs that are priced higher that will be starting for me. I don't have any Steelers, one because George Pickens sucks and disappointed me all year, and I don't trust the weather for Mason Rudolph to be chucking the ball too much. So I think it's going to be check down Charlie and Najee Harris trying to grind the game out.
Shout out former Steelers quarterback Charlie Batch. Great reference there. Bob,
Lions quarterback too.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the Steelers are going to make this close. I think that they're going to want to run the football. That's exactly what they're going to try to do. If you look at Buffalo, the way you beat them is on the ground. Last week, the Dolphins had over 100 yards rushing between Achane and Wilson. They only ran the ball I think it was 19 carries for just over 100 yards. So you could beat them on the ground. That's how the Steelers are going to want to do it. This game, that's why the over-under is 36.5. So that minus 10 is implying that this game is going to be 24 to not even 23-13 or something like that. So that seems like a realistic score. Of course, I'm still going Buffalo. They're playing way too well. I actually am taking Najee Harris because of the fact that I know you could beat Buffalo on the ground, but also it's just the only way as much as I'm not going to sit here and say I would rather play Najee Harris than James Cook, but the only way they're going to have a shot this week is if Najee Harris gets going. And so I'm going to just ride with that. He's probably going to get you 15 to 20 carries or touches. So that's why I'm going to stick with Najee Harris as a RB2 on my roster.
But you're going Buffalo to win the game.
Correct.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to make it another quad box, Bob. Go ahead and hit that. That's a quad box for Buffalo Bills as well to get the W. But I also agree with Bob that I think that Pittsburgh makes it close. I think there's going to be a bigger blowout with Kansas City over Miami this week. But
that's right, folks.
We could bring the Buffalo Bills in for the quad box.
To make everybody feel uncomfortable on a nice Tuesday night, here's some sexual music talking about the quad box with Buffalo over the Steelers. Back to you, Sky Gawasco.
Man, I feel like we were good until you mentioned it that way. That was kind of just a slumping beat. It's
been a long damn season, and we're still. I am shocked, by the way. The last Sunday show we did 2 weeks ago, I was I don't even care. I was start whoever the fuck you want. I am so tired. Everybody's gone. He's on a boat. Sky dropped off. Derek's out somewhere doing something. I don't know. I was just you know what, kids? Do whatever. I'm here by myself. I don't care anymore. So I'm still here doing DFS picks. What are we freaking kidding me? God damn.
Bob, I'm shocked. Sexual. I'm shocked that you're not inspired by a player like James Conner, who with nothing else to play for still shows up to work. And that's your guy, right? So be a professional, show up for the people. That's what we do here. Get it together. If you need if you need me to throw a trash can across the locker room at halftime, I'm happy to do that for you. But let's keep it together and we're ready to go.
Derek, can I get Eastern time? I need an Eastern time check for Bobby's blow up, Derek.
9:29.
9:29. Bob blow up.
This is all of a sudden Razzball HR is going to be so we got this weird notebook that has dates and everything you've said that's awkward. Fucking Matt. All right, go ahead.
Just showed up in the mail. No return address.
But by the way, if you look at this is all of my cusses are in here. You got to see it's about 17 inches thick. That's what she said. So
keep writing.
All right, Sky. Why don't you tell us about Buffalo and how they're going to beat the Steelers?
Yeah, if you guys don't mind, I'd like us to stay on the air. So if I could get back to our broadcast, I'd appreciate that. My DFS picks for this game, I actually have two for you. We have a try box for Najee Harris, and as much as I love our tunes, I'm going to have to blank it out on this one, and I'm going to go with the other running back, and I'm actually going to go with Jaylen Warren. I'm going to save $300. He could have the game that Najee has. He's also got he has 5 targets in 6 of the last 7 games. They're going to have, at least for the first half while it's close, they're going to have to maintain, and if they can't run against him, they're going to have to throw it. I think that helps Jaylen Warren a little bit. I'm going to save $300 there at $5,100 for Jaylen Warren. And then I usually don't do this, but it's hard with only 6 games to find a DST that doesn't have a player against it. So I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills against Mason Rudolph. He's been a fun story, but again, I think this matchup's going to be rough. Buffalo's playing hot right now. Their defense is doing well. And yes, they did get run on, but they didn't get thrown on by arguably the best pass attack in the NFL last week in Tua and the Dolphins. So I'm going to go with Buffalo to have a couple of turnovers. I like Jaylen Warren in the PPR format. So give me Jaylen Warren as one of my running backs and the Bills DST at 3,500. So we're going to go quad box on the Buffalo Bills to win the game. Najee Harris, 3 out of 4. And then I've got the Bills there as well. All right, gentlemen, let's move over to the NFC. And of course, we're going to get all of our picks for the bracket at the end of the episode, so stick around for that. But Derek, I'm going to turn back to you here. Let's go to the NFC side of things. We're going to start off with the Tampa Bay Football Buccaneers going up against the reeling Philadelphia Eagles. And shouts out to our Eagles fans. I mean, they're going through it right now. 2 months ago, you're sitting at 10-1. You are, quote unquote, the best team in the NFL. Problem is, he had to go play the Niners, which I know can be really tough for teams. So they go and play the Niners, and it has been an absolute dumpster fire since then. Now they have a couple injuries. Bob brought up A.J. Brown, questionable. Devonta Smith didn't even play last week. He's questionable as well. Then you had DeAndre Swift sit out last week as well, giving my boy Kenny Gainwell some work. DST has been a little bit rough also. So I'm going to go with the Bucs and the Eagles, the 4-5 matchup. This one is not looking good for Philadelphia, but they do still have one of the best rosters in the NFL. Tampa Bay, though, has the top seed and the home field advantage in this one as the 4 seed with Baker Mayfield going up against the 5 Eagles. Derek, who you got to win the game and who's in your DFS lineup?
Yeah, this one's you framed it really good. The Eagles are ripe for the picking. Tampa, can they do it? They've got the weapons. I mean, Baker Mayfield's been a great story. Rashad White, who saw his season, coming? He's been a great story. Of course, they've got the weapons at wide receiver. I mean, they can certainly take advantage of that porous Eagles defense at home. But last 2 games, they've scored a total of 22 points against the Saints and the Panthers. That's brutal. That's brutal. I mean, if we were in the middle of the season, we could say this could almost be a get-right game for the Bucs offense. But it's not. It's the playoffs. It's the first round. They're hosting it. It's a great story. But there's just too much talent on the Eagles side, despite what we've seen. I think Jalen Hurts is going to just take over this game, and the Eagles are going to win. We talked about upsets before. I could see this being one, but I think the Eagles are going to prevail. They've got the pedigree, they've got the experience, they've got the talent. Those 3 things should factor in, and they should win. That said, for my DFS lineup, I am staying away from this game completely. There are some nice plays out there that I like, but the one being Rashad White would be one, but he was a little too expensive, and I already have my 2. So I'm staying away from this game. I've got no one on my DFS roster from this game, and I picked the Eagles.
Starting off on the NFC with an upset there. Now, it's an upset because of the seeding, but record-wise, the Philadelphia Eagles have a better record than the Bucs, but that's how it goes. Also, they have this horrible rule in the NFL. I think back in the day to the 9-7 Seahawks, who hosted a playoff game versus the 11-5 Saints. That was the Beastquake game. And look, Seahawks got the W, but they shouldn't have. 7-9. Excuse me. You're right. 7-9. But they hosted a playoff game. Beastquake. The rest is history. Whatever. So that team does host the game, even though Philadelphia has a better record. Nonetheless, Matt, who do you got here with the Bucs and the Eagles?
So 2 questions for the group. Number 1, how do you beat Philly?
Throw the ball.
Throw the ball.
Number 2, which team has more pressure?
Philadelphia, for sure.
Philadelphia. Yeah, so they've got to be puckered really, really, really tight. I would go off record as saying if you let Jalen Hurts sit on a lump of coal between now and kickoff, when he stood up for the national anthem, you'd have a big fat diamond on the chair. That's how tight they have to be puckered. With that, They're going to beat Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is going to throw the ball. Therefore, I've got big game Mike Evans in my DFS lineup. Mark it down now, whoever's got a book that doesn't have HR notes in it. Mike Evans goes for 2 and 2 in a loss.
Nice. I got it down.
2 equals 200. I said it all season. He's going to get. He's going to have at least 2. Well, he should have 2 games with 202. He didn't do it. He got close. So this is the game he does it. By the way, can we give a shout out to Mike Evans with 13 more touchdowns and 1,000 more yards? Just insane. And his quarterback, the one and only, probably just outside the top 12. I stuck my neck way out for him. Baker Mayfield. The part that scares me about Baker is he's not as mobile as the Philly front 4. So I don't know that he's going to be able to scramble and move enough but when he does throw, he's going to throw to Mike Evans. So I paid up for Mike Evans. I don't like the pay, but I had to try to separate from the other folks, knowing that there's going to be a game a little bit later where you guys are going to take a really inexpensive guy that I tend to really like, but we shall see. So give me Mike Evans at 6,900, Eagles for the overall win.
Well, man, I got good news for you. Baker Mayfield is inside the top 12, by the way.
Yes. I was just going to break that news.
Count it.
I didn't want to say it.
It's amazing.
You can say it, bro. It's after the season.
Well,
it's out now. See, if it's during the season, then you're padding your stats. It's kind of arrogant. You don't want to be that guy. The season's over, bro. You made your shot. It won. Go for it.
Yeah, in fact, you did say it. You said it first back in either late August or early September. I don't recall the date. So you did say it.
And I believe that everybody else on the panel did this. Yikes.
Yeah. Well, if we want to give you too much credit here, he was the quarterback 19 in points per game, but he played 17. So just want to go on.
Fuck off, Bob. That's not
Bob.
Just saying. Just want to throw some shade here. We're going to throw any shade, but it's still a great call. Still a great call.
Hey, happy birthday, everybody. Bob blew your candles out.
Bob, there's guys like Nick Mullins and like AJ O'Connell and stuff ahead of him. I don't want to hear about the points per game on the Baker Mayfield. Give Matt his flowers.
No,
he made it happen.
No, we'll
have a
true.
recap later.
That's not true. That's not true. It's only Carson. I took out Flacco. I took out Flacco, and I took out Wentz, and that's why he's at 19. And everybody else played at least 8 games.
Who the hell is Carson Wentz? Give me a break.
Carson Wentz had 27 points last week. Oh, it's absurd. Great. What a time to be alive. But still a great call, Matt. I think I'm going to give you a call.
All right, we got a double upset here. Philadelphia Eagles over the Bucks. There we go. Thank you. Well done, Matty. We're gonna have a Matt and Derek and I at least. Maybe we'll invite Bob, but if with this kind of naysaying attitude, maybe we won't be inviting Bob. But Derek, Matt, and I did a bold predictions and crazy call episode back in August. We made our calls. Derek has a big one that unfortunately came true and ruined fantasy football, so we appreciate that. But Derek has his flowers, and Matt does as well. I have another one that I was excited about my own 49ers. So we all did make a good call. We're going to recap that eventually over the summer, so make sure you stick with us for the bold prediction recap. But we have 2 Eagles win over the Bucks. Bob, you're going to make it a three-peat here with the Eagles over the Bucks in the upset.
Yeah. Technically, it's not even like an upset. They're -3 here, so they're technically favored. But yeah, so here's the other problem with Baker's banged up. Like you could tell he's messed up. The ribs messed up injury. Like Baker's not even healthy, and you could tell by that 9-0 win against the Panthers. Now listen, the one thing the Panthers are good. They have a good secondary. I don't know why. I don't know what the hell's going on in Carolina, but for some reason they can play pass defense. It just makes no freaking sense. But Baker doesn't look right, hasn't looked right over the last few weeks. And I think if you were telling me Baker was healthy, and then on top of that, Jalen Hurts was dealing with his injury, and A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith might be out, I would say, all right, I'd take a shot on the Bucs. Baker doesn't look right either. And if Baker's not right, I just don't think they have a shot. And I think that Matt brought up a really good point. That speed of that Eagles rush might actually finally get home. It just seems like they haven't done it all year, but I think they step up, get a win this week. And I'm with Derek, and I'm actually avoiding this game. I don't have anybody in my DFS lineup because we don't really know. But this is one of those games where actually it's a lie. I have Dallas Goedert. Who am I talking about? I have Dallas Goedert. Basically, the Bucs are a good matchup for tight ends, plus the injuries to Smith and Brown. If one of them misses, Goddard's going to have to step up. So I like Goedert.
I like
What's
that's
the
a
price
good
on
call.
Goddard,
Let's see. Goddard is
he's got to be relatively inexpensive.
4,800, I believe.
That's nice. That is 1,300 cheaper than Travis Kelce. Yeah, that's a good move.
Cheaper than Njoku. Derek's going to surprise everybody here in a minute.
Yeah, don't give it away.
I think it's really. I think Bob did a great thing there, which I think we're all doing, but he explained it well there, where you're kind of like sifting through the weeds a little bit when you're looking for DFS plays. Like Dallas Goedert's a decent tight end anyway, but he's significantly cheaper as a number of players we've already mentioned, which is value. Anywhere you can get value in DFS is nice. But then again, you have like these auxiliary situations here with AJ Brown and Devonta Smith not 100%. If either one of those guys are limited or don't play at all or exit, Dallas Goedert is that auto fill there. So I like that. Although shouts out to my boy Julio Jones, who I almost threw in somehow at like $400. Julio Jones, but he's been great. And shouts out to the fantasy and NFL Hall of Famer. All right, boys, I'm going to make it a quad box. Bob, go ahead and hit me.
Oh,
that is the Philadelphia Eagles with the technical upset in playoff terms. They are favored. They are the better team. They do have the best record.
I still don't understand why they called this feeding the ducks. Like, I can't imagine. All right, you're at a bench.
Good though, dude.
You're at a bench right now. Got a little brown paper bag, some ripped up bread, and you're just like, "Ooh, come here, ducky. Let me give you some of that bread." Like, that doesn't. I don't feel that vibe at all. That doesn't make any sense.
Man,
maybe feeding the ducks means something else. Maybe we don't know what feeding the ducks means.
All I know is go Ducks. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Go Ducks.
You know what? You keep going. I'm going to pull up Urban Dictionary.
Love it. Oh, Matt, be careful.
Right.
Remember, again, Urban Dictionary could get us in serious trouble, so be careful there.
Proofread
that, please. While you're pulling that up, I'm going to make it a quad box for the Eagles over the Bucs. I am actually rooting for the Bucs. Baker's been fun. I'm rooting for Todd Bowles in general. I like the guy. Whatever. I think they have a fun team. I love Mike Evans. My DFS player is a guy we haven't talked about in a long time on Sundays even, but one of my favorite players in general, under the radar. I think a great wide receiver and just outshadowed, and rightfully so, by Mike Evans. But that's Chris Godwin at 6,200 PPR machine. Mike Evans is Mike Evans. I think he's going to get the work, but when the Eagles look to roll over, it's going to be Mike Evans. They're not going to be doing that on Chris Godwin. PPR format, I like that. So I'm going to go Chris Godwin to save a little coin there at my wide receiver, 6,200. And to go back to that song quickly, Matt, before you gave us the Urban Dictionary for Feed the Ducks, I have to agree with Daniel down here who says, quote, "Wow, the jams are wild." That is correct. Now, if we think back to Sunday and we're going through the motions of what can happen, playoff scenarios, right? The Packers and the Bears play each other. The Bears have no right to be forcing the Packers an opportunity there. You know, they've been kind of phoning it in, but it's a close game. All of a sudden, Packers get the W back into the playoffs there. I could just imagine Matt rolling to the grocery store late to get his week groceries with that song, Feed the Ducks, slamming down the highway as he's just cruising control with the Packers into the playoffs. So that makes perfect sense there that one's on the board. Matt, do you have an Urban Dictionary for us, or can we move on?
I do. It's in Urban Dictionary. Let me see how PG I can be about this. So a young man and young woman go out on a date. She's pleased with the date, wants to give a high five, if you will, at the end of the date, and manually stimulates her date. So
I love that. Pay it forward.
Said high five.
Man, you say manually stimulates his date? So that's what Feeding the Ducks means. So it actually is sex. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
No, it's with the five manually.
Wouldn't that be more of a low five or a handshake?
Well, I don't know. Is he standing on a park bench? Is he feeding the ducks from there? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
look,
I would
folks,
say we probably shouldn't use that song anymore.
I think I'm going to use it all the time.
Hold on.
Now.
The song, hold on, time out. The song 100% is our go-to quad boxer. It's easily the slump in his beat. I just think we should move away from maybe the title because, frankly, if we don't say that, nobody except for Daniel knows that's actually the title anymore, right? So it's under the radar. We're moving on. Let's get another quad box so we can keep slamming. I appreciate that. So handily appreciating a date. I think we've all been there. I think that's a great opportunity for everybody. Pay it forward. Be nice to your significant other. So shouts out to everybody.
Everybody enjoyed a good thank you.
I absolutely agree there. That's going to be a quad box again for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, again, Tampa Bay, 4 seed, Eagles, 5 seed. This game is in Tampa Bay.
When you need to high five someone you love.
Nope.
Think of this quad box next time.
All right, let's move on to Detroit, Michigan, folks. We have a big one here. This is another great opportunity for the NFL to capitalize on a ton of revenge games, trade scenarios, the Detroit Lions, every single person outside of Green Bay is rooting for because you have to after their history. And then you got the Rams, who is LA based. They were not supposed to do anything this year. They have arguably the hottest team in the NFL the last month and a half. Stafford goes to Detroit or goes to the Rams. Goff goes from the Rams to Detroit. Now you got them playing. We got our boy D. Campbell biting off the kneecap. Sean McVay, who somehow didn't have more than a field goal in a Super Bowl against Brady in 2019. All these playoff scenarios coming in. Cooper Kupp is back healthy finally. And, of course, you have a great run game and defense from Detroit. This game right here is my absolute favorite of the whole weekend. I'm very much looking forward to watching this game in NFL terms in general. I'm actually rooting kind of for both of these teams, but I'm rooting for the Detroit Lions just because I think they've been a fun story. But Derek, I'll go with you here first. You know the rules. Give us the winner of the game and then any of your DFS plays. And shocker, this game has maybe 7, 8, 9 DFS relevant players.
Yeah, it does. And this, I agree. I think this one has the makings of a shootout, and I'd love to load my DFS lineup with this and with these players. But I did find room for two. One of them, and you probably understand, the other one may be a little surprise. So first of all, I'm going to go with the Lions to win. Maybe more of a fan pick than an analysis pick. I certainly think the Rams could win. I mean, they're playing great. They have a better defense than Detroit does, frankly. Their offensive weapons match up pretty well. So I could certainly see a scenario where the Rams win, but I'm going to give Detroit that excitement, their aggressiveness, home field. I mean, they're overdue. This would be a great win for that franchise, for that city. So I'm going to lean Detroit on this one. And for my DFS plays, I've got to go with my man Amon-Ra St. Brown, 8,000. He's actually my wide receiver 2. But we'll talk about that more in a minute. And then because of my some of my picks, which we haven't covered yet, I really need a cheap player. So I'm going with James Mitchell as my tight end. You might say, who? James Mitchell. He is the third string tight end for the Detroit Lions. Sam Porta. Oh, it's tragic to see what happened to him. He's going to miss this game most likely. I don't see any scenario where he's going to play this game. The second tight end, Brock Wright, he's dealing with a hip injury. He hasn't practiced yet. So next man up, James Mitchell. And we know that they like throwing to the tight ends, and he's been playing a lot more lately, and he has his first 2 catches of the season these last 2 weeks. So James Mitchell, $2,800 is my tight end pick of the week.
Love it. Love you. Dumpster diving. So important for DFS. And especially with, minimal games happening, you have so many less players to choose from. I love that. I actually thought about going that direction. I'll get my pick here in a second. I saved some coin as well, but I went another direction. But that's a great opportunity. My only concern there was if Laporta does play or Brock Wright is the next man up, then maybe James Mitchell might just be irrelevant. But if he isn't, then I think that's a great opportunity. And he's totally off the radar and basically free, Derek. That's a good call.
Yeah, at $2,800, he doesn't have to do much to earn his salary. So.
Not at all. And honestly, even if those guys play, he could get a random couple of catches and he'll pay off there. So we got one for Detroit over the Rams. Again, Detroit, the 3rd seed, the Rams, the 6th seed. This game is in Detroit. First division title. 30 years, folks. Those of us old enough to remember my favorite player of all time, Barry Sanders' play was the last time that they won their division. First time they've won the Central because they used to be, the North, because they used to be the Central there. Maddie, who you got, Detroit Lions or LA Rams? And do you have any DFS action in this one?
Call of the the Lions. I think the Rams could sneak in here, and I also think the Rams could blow the doors off the Lions. So I really have no idea what's going to happen in this game. I'm going with the home team. I think it's time for them to get over the hump. I don't like what they did to Green Bay at the end of the season last year, kept us out of the playoffs, but that's water under the bridge. I would love for our guy, official Savage, to get a win here in the playoffs. What Goff are we going to get? Are we going to get real home Goff? Or are we going to get playoff home Goff? I'm leaning towards we're going to get Goff that wins a playoff game. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be a Stafford strip sack that ends the game, as opposed to maybe an interception. I think it's going to be an Aiden Hutchinson strip sack. Detroit wins, going away. They kneel down. My second favorite rookie in the NFL this year behind Puka Nacua is Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm paying up for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think he is going to get the lion's share of the touches for the Detroit Lions. I think that the best player on the field would be Amon-Ra St. Brown, but I was not willing to pay up for him. I thought others will. Therefore, I'm going to fade him and try something else a little bit different. But I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs. I would love to find a way to get my guy Puka in there, but I think the Lions defense is stout enough on the back end where I'm going to stay away from the Rams receivers, and I think it might be more of a Kyron Williams game for the Rams. So give me the Lions in a tight game. Give me Jahmyr Gibbs because I don't think anybody's willing to pay up for him, and I hope that separates me from the field.
Yeah, this one's fun because this is the Rams-Lions trade. Matthew Stafford for Jared Goff and picks. Now they're facing each other in the playoffs. Like, this is a huge moment for Jared Goff. Like, could you imagine? I mean, granted, the Rams already won the Super Bowl, so it's all moot now anyway because they already got the Super Bowl win. But, like, the question comes, like, without Sam Laporta now, that's a huge loss for Jared Goff. And if you look at the home games this season, outside of the Packers, they haven't really beat anybody great at home. I mean, Vikings, Bears, Broncos, Raiders, there really hasn't been a notable home win. They lost to the Packers at home, 29-22. So, like, the only one really good team they faced at home this season, they ended up losing. So, I don't know if home field advantage really scares me off. I know it's home Goff versus road Stafford. And in our analysis, we talk about this a lot. Stafford's been better at home and Goff's been better at home too, so we should lean that direction. But I do think the Sam Laporta injury is going to be a factor here, and I think that's going to be the difference. I think I'm going to go Rams with the upset. I think this is the one game I feel confident about, the actual upset when it comes to, the -3. And I'm going with Amon-Ra St. Brown. Keeping him in. He just stay high. The thing with the Rams have allowed the most fantasy points if you look at their slot versus wide metric down the stretch. They were getting killed on the perimeter down the stretch, and that's how you beat the Rams. So I'm going to go with Amon-Ra.
I love it. So Bob's got the upset with the Rams. You guys went with the Lions, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Correct.
Okay, just making sure. I'm going to go 3 for 4 with the Lions. The storyline and my conspiracy mind of the NFL just needing to have Detroit and Dallas rematch after 2 weeks ago just makes too much sense. So I'm going to go Lions strictly based on that. Plus, I think they're a better team overall. Also, Dan Campbell moving forward, I think is just fun for football, and that fan base just deserves it after 30 years of disaster. That being said, this is absolutely upset alert for sure. The Rams are capable. They have been there, done that. Most of that roster was on the Super Bowl team. Sean McVay, of course, has been quite successful after a couple of down years. Lately, Cooper Kupp didn't play last week. He's back now. Puka Nacua set a number of rookie records with receptions and yards last week. We know what he can blow up there as well. And I just think that Matt Stafford could make another deep run. And their defense has been arguably the best defense in the NFL over the last month as well. So this is absolutely an upset opportunity, but I do think that the Lions at home make it happen. I think they're going to have trouble next week. We'll see about that, but I do think the Lions get the win, but it's going to be very close, potentially down to a field goal to end it. I have a lot of DFS action in this game. I've got Jared Goff at 6,200 as my quarterback. Therefore, automatically, I told you guys earlier, I faded Flacco and Amari Cooper. I like that QB stack somewhere, so I'm going to make it Amon-Ra St. Brown as well. That's a fan favorite there. PPR machine, but also has big play potential. targeted in the red zone as well. Big yardage. I think they're going to have that opportunity. So I'm going to go Goff at 6,200 and Amon-Ra St. Brown as well at 8,000. That's a big chunk. And then my deep throw was going to be Mitchell. I like that at tight end for Derek there. I thought about that and I faded it. I'm going to go with Demarcus Robinson, who has been pretty hot over the last couple of weeks with Puka off and on and Cooper Kupp missing. Now, both of those guys are going to play. So Demarcus Robinson is a distant third option there, but it only takes a play or two for him. We've seen that. And if anything happens with Kupp, which he's been leaving games recently, or Puka for any reason, or they just double coverage those guys, you got one-on-ones with Demarcus Robinson, he's a great third option, and Stafford is happy to chuck it down the field for him. So I really like Demarcus Robinson as a free play as my flex at 3,600. So again, that's Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Demarcus Robinson in my plays there. And again, I'm going to go with the Lions getting the win. Before we move on to our final game here with Dallas and Green Bay, Jamie, Barry Sanders won the MVP in 1997, and he actually split the MVP award with Matt Stiles.
What year?
1997.
Jerry Rice.
Brett Favre.
Jerry Rice, close. It was the original Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre. Brett Favre and Barry Sanders somehow split this award, which I don't think is fair. No shots to Favre, one of my favorites as a kid, but Barry Sanders deserved it outright. He was also the Offensive Player of the Year twice. He played 10 years in the NFL. He made the Pro Bowl every single season, and he was better in college. Also, folks, this is one for the OGs, but please Google running back teammate at Oklahoma State for Barry Sanders. Who was Barry Sanders' running back duo teammate at Oklahoma State? Another perennial Pro Bowler, Hall of Famer, great teams in the NFL, in the AFC there.
Thurman Thomas.
Thurman Thomas was the backfield mate there for Barry Sanders. Could you imagine Thurman Thomas and Barry Sanders coming at you in their backfield? Absolutely unbelievable there for the Cowboys in Oklahoma State. So Barry Sanders, my favorite player of all time, outside of Jalen Hurd, of course, but that's a conversation for another time. So I'm going to go with the Lions also to get this win over the Rams. It's 3 out of 4. We have one more pick, gentlemen. Dallas Cowboys getting the number 2 seed with the Philadelphia Eagles just completely handing it to them down the stretch here. And Dallas slides into the number 2 slot. They get the Green Bay Packers on the road. Packers need to go down to Dallas and make it happen. I really want this game to be at Lambeau just because I think it'd be a lot of fun to see the Cowboys have to show up in that game, but it's not. It's a home game for Dak and the boys. Green Bay backs into the playoffs. They make that opportunity. Great season for Jordan Love. All of these young wide receivers and opportunities there for the Packers. We'll see what happens here. Derek, do you think there's any upset opportunity here for Matt's Packers, or do you think this is going to be Dallas, and who do you have in DFS?
Well, there is an opportunity. 2 years in a row, the Packers went to the final game, win and get in. This year, Jordan Love behind center, they get in. Last year, there was some other guy there, and he didn't get in. But we'll just leave it at that. So, yeah, definitely, Packers are playing well right now. They deserve to have this shot at the Cowboys. But the Cowboys are 8-0 at home, 3-5 on the road. So it's not just Dak Prescott playing better at home versus the road. It's actually the whole team. Their wins on the road, the Chargers, the Panthers, and the Commanders. Oh, that's brutal. But they're playing at home, and this should be a Dallas win in my mind. I like the spread, over 50 points. So I have 4 players filling up my DFS roster. I have 4 players going in this one, starting out with Dak Prescott, again, playing at home. He's the player 7,600. I really like paying up a little bit for him, and I've got to match him with CeeDee Lamb at 9,000. So that's a really expensive one, but you've got the little mini stack with Prescott and Lamb. But I'm also going to put in Michael Gallup as my flex option, 3,100. I needed a little bit salary relief there, and again, I'm counting on that passing offense to really put up some numbers. So I've got Prescott, Lamb, and Michael Gallup. And then on the other side, Dontavian Wicks. He's really come on this year. complement Jaden Reed in the Packers offense. And Jordan Love is showing that those couple years where he was the understudy has paid off. He's really put a pretty good season together this year. And Wicks and Reed in particular have been really good surprises for the youngest team in the NFL. And so I'm going to go with Wicks at 4,800 to round out my roster.
Love that. So you got a major stack. I just told you I had 3 players in the previous game with the Lions and the Rams. You got 4 in this one, 3 Cowboys and a Packer there as well. So you're going to go with Dallas to get the dub, but taking a shot on Wicks. And I like the deep dives there with Wicks, but also Gallup, right? Because another player that it only takes 1 necessarily. So we'll see what happens. Maddie, how about you, my man? We know what your heart says. What does your brain tell you?
You want to go to me next, or you want me to? You
want to bring up the rear? You got it. Let's go to Boss first, then. Bob, what do you think?
Yeah. Listen, I got to tell you, it's got to make you a little happy inside, Matt, knowing that Jordan Love was able to do something that Aaron Rodgers could not do last year, and that's win that last game, winning in, baby, and you got to the playoffs, and I'm super proud of him. The wild card is a great accomplishment, and that's where it all ends. And the Dallas Cowboys are 8-0 at home. And they are going to do the same thing. They're going to win again at home. And then they're going to get to the divisional round, and they're going to see ghosts. And they're going to be like, oh, no, we're in the divisional round. And then they're going to lose somehow to, the 3 seed. So I'm going to go Cowboys here. I like the fact that they are very much better at home. The follow-up to that is CeeDee Lamb I have in my DFS lineup. It's just, if you look at the slot versus wide metric, the Green Bay Packers get absolutely crushed in the slot. One of only 2 teams allowed 19 fantasy points in the slot. That's where CeeDee Lamb does a lot of his damage in fantasy football. On top of that, Jair Alexander, who is back, nice that he's back, but he plays predominantly on the outside, so that's not going to impact CeeDee Lamb as much. Guys like Adam Thielen had very big games against this Packers secondary, so I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. On the other side, I'm going with Wicks as well. Davion Wicks is just – he's actually more when you watch him on film and you watch him in the games, he is a nasty route runner. They're doing some slow motion highlights of him. I'm like, holy shit, where is this kid even coming from? I am a little worried about Christian Watson coming back. That could change things there too, but I like Wicks. And then I'm going with Tucker Kraft, 3,300. He's kind of my buy down guy. I think that if the Cowboys do their thing, you're going to see a lot of underneath stuff to Kraft, who's built very well. That being said, who knows? Is Luke Musgrave coming back this week? I don't know. I think he's been activated off IR, but that's other things to monitor later in the week. So I'll go those 3 guys in my DFS lineup.
Got it. But you're going Dallas with the dub, but we got a lot of action in this game. Should be a shootout regardless. All right, Matt, give it to us.
So there's nobody.
Before you start, Matt, I didn't mean to cut, but Scott, you got to give us your take first. Let Matt really bring it up. Let Matt really be the finale.
Okay, sorry. I was trying to be a professional with our segues here as the host, Bob.
We do that. We have sexual music that insinuates hand jobs or whatever that is. So we have gone out the window with that. So go ahead.
Okay, let's rewind then. Hey, Bob, those are really great takes. You got Dallas, but you got 3 other players. This is going to be a really great shootout game. Matt, nice. If you don't mind, let me go before you, if that's okay with you, and then we'll have you bring up the rear there. All right, great. So I'm going to go with Dallas here as well. This is a game you all know that I'm a Niner guy. I'm rooting against Dallas no matter what. So I'm 100%. Every ounce of my body is rooting for the Green Bay Packers. So you got that going for you. I'm a big Dorsey Levens fan. Shouts out to my boy Antonio Freeman. Right, the list goes on. James Starks, Eddie Lacy. Right, I mean you could go on forever, but. Unfortunately, I don't see the Green Bay Packers making it happen because the game's in Dallas. If this game somehow was miraculously in Green Bay, they would have a massive home field advantage. Dallas is not the same team on the road, so they got a massive up here being the number 2 seed rolling through Dallas throughout the playoffs until they get San Francisco. But I just unfortunately don't see Green Bay getting the W, although I really wish they could make it happen. And unfortunately, my roster is completely full at this point, except for one spot. I wanted more action in this game. I tried to do the CD and Dak stack. I tried to do some other players in this one. I had Aaron Jones in there at 6,300 until the very end, but I had to get some switches around there. But A.J. Dillon is not 100% since he broke his thumb. So I'm going to go here with Jalen Reed, who I know is a fan favorite here on the pod. 5,700, not cheap, but also not expensive. For me, he's kind of Debo light, right? Like if Watson comes back and they got Romeo Doubs who actually catches a pass, and they have Wicks and all these other guys that are doing work, Tucker Kraft and Aaron Jones, Reed is still going to get rushes. He's going to get targets. He's got big play opportunity. He can break one in the open field, and he's got touchdown upside. So for me, Reed is that player that I could afford there in this game. I wanted to get some Cowboys, but I just couldn't. So Reed is going to be my player at 5,700 on my DFS lineup, which fills out my entire roster. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with the Cowboys in the pick'em, but my heart wants the Green Bay Packers. So far, that's a try box. Matt, is it a quad box for one more slump and tune, or are you going to go with your microfibers here for the hometown Green Bay Packers?
Right now, we have the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Eagles. Everybody is taking them. Derek took the Texans. Bob took the Rams. Right? So those are the only two outliers right now. So let me ask you a couple of questions. One, what team backed into the playoffs?
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
In the NFC.
Eagles.
The NFC. Last team in.
Oh, Packers.
Packers, right? The Rams were in the playoffs before Green Bay was. The history with Green Bay going into Dallas or even at Lambeau is significant. What team right now has the highest implied line victory? Dallas, 7.5.
Dallas, yeah.
Okay.
No, it's Buffalo.
Buffalo's at 10.
Buffalo 10.
The NFC, right? We'll
NFC.
talk about the real conference. The NFC.
All right.
Now, and you include all of the teams right now, NFC, AFC. What's the one team that has to win the game? They have to. The entire state of Texas will rumble and crack at the core and just fall into the Gulf of Mexico. Dallas has to win this game. They have to. The problem with Dallas is they think they're going to win this football game. Dallas has no doubt in their mind that they are the better team. They are 8-0. I want everybody for the rest of the week to keep saying they're 8-0 at home. They're 8-0 at home. Brandon Aubrey doesn't miss field goals or extra points. Brandon Aubrey doesn't miss field goals or extra points. Brandon Aubrey has not missed a field goal all year. They're 8-0 at home. They're 8-0 at home. They're 8-0 at home. Keep saying it. Fuck everybody. Because shit changes this weekend.
There he is.
Damn right. Damn right.
Jordan Love walks in and turns Big D into Big G.
Green Bay.
What is
The shitty ass kicker that we drafted from Auburn to replace our heartthrob Mason Crosby, shout out to the gray hair, who has just been shitty for the Giants since they signed him. Carlson walks it off for Green Bay, and everybody in that stadium sits for about 45 minutes
Matt.
and can't believe what happened.
Matt,
Aaron
you're getting me
Jones
flushed.
for a hundo and a touchdown. Jaden Reed will have 100 total yards and a touchdown. Green Bay has at least one defensive or special teams touchdown, and Brandon Cooks will be the top receiver for Dallas. That's it. It's over. It's said. Somebody hit fucking end stream. That's it. It's over. I'm done talking about it. Dallas is 8-0. Fuck them. Fuck Texas. Fuck you. Fuck you. And fuck you for taking the Cowboys.
Woo!
That's it.
I like it.
And I'm going to be wrong, but that's all right.
That's okay. It's okay, though. You know what? We're not swinging with your team.
God. See,
So
Matt,
give me Aaron Jones. Give me Jaden Reed. Give me the Packers defense, who, by the way, could rack up 6 or 7 sacks. and give me
Multiple.
Brandon Cooks
Yeah.
because I needed to save a little bit of money and possibly a little bit of face.
Wow. Absolutely love this. Like Matt, your passion overrides all of the rest of our analysis, which we appreciate here. We're here for the people. We're showing some love. I can't tell you how much I'm hoping you're right. Have you heard that Brandon Aubrey has not missed a field goal all season?
Not all season.
I also read that Dallas hasn't even lost at home this year. Right? So like
go.
those are going to be very interesting to see happen here. So boy, that would be great. And shout out to our Cowboys fans, but
we're not shouting them out. Let me throw this out, Bob.
Yeah.
This is for the Giants fans. This is
Giants.
for the Commanders fans.
Go Commanders.
This is for the Texans fans. This is for Oiler fans.
Oh, go Oilers. Nice.
Right? This is for everybody that lives in the state of Texas that absolutely despises all of the shit-eating Dallas Cowboy bandwagon. Fuck all fans. Fuck them. All of them.
Yeah.
You can't go to a gas station in this state without being able to find some type of shitty Dallas Cowboy merchandise. Piss on all of it, Bob. This is for the Giants.
We're good. I just saw a montage about every single play the Giants had this year where they could have won and made the playoffs. And so I basically feel like I'm in the playoffs, so I don't need any additional help. All the missed field goals or missed touchdown catches by the Giants this year, we would have had 4 more wins. And we apparently would have made the playoffs, so that would have been fun. But it doesn't matter. The 49ers are going to clean their clock no matter what. If they face them in the NFC title game, the Cowboys are going to get their ass kicked at some point in this playoffs. We're just not sure when. But I just don't think it's this week. Matt, I like your passion. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely love that as well. So, unfortunately, folks, we're not going to have a quad box to end the show because Matt's going with the Packers, which all of our hearts want the Packers, but we're going to go with the Dallas Cowboys 3 out of 4 there. So, gentlemen, let's wrap up the show here. Also, Jamie letting us know that his 4-year-old listens to the show. So, Matt, if we can keep the F-bombs
Start him young,
to a
baby.
minimum
Here's
around
the deal.
bedtime, we appreciate that.
Jamie's child is now 7 after that rant.
Well, he needs to know what feeding ducks means. So now he knows.
Man, him and Mason Crosby got a couple of the gray hair. Shout out to Ryan Longwell as well for talking Packers kickers. All right, gentlemen, we're going to wrap up the show here. We have the notes. We have our stuff ready to go. We just talked wild card weekend in depth, and we set our DFS lineups. But that was a ton of information, a lot of inappropriate content, and it's a lot of scramblage. So let's wrap it all into a bundle, finish the show strong. Derek, I'm going to start with you. I want all of your wild card picks, every one of them, just in line, no analysis. Just give us the teams and the matchups, and then break down your DFS lineup from quarterback to DST. Maddie will go to you second. Bob, you'll wrap up third, and then I'll finish it off. Derek, who do you have for all of your winners this week? And then what does your DFS lineup look like?
Yeah, give me the home team in every game except for the Philadelphia Tampa game. I'm going with the road Eagles to get their ship righted. I did say ship.
Derek, language, please.
And my DFS lineup, I've got Dak Prescott, 7,600, Najee Harris, and Isaiah Pacheco as my running backs, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Dotavian Wicks, James Mitchell, tight end 3 for the Lions, Michael Gallup, and the Chiefs defense hosting those Dolphins. They're going to be frozen Dolphins come this weekend in frigid Kansas City.
Nice. I love that. Shout out to Jay Mitch. We're hoping for a big game from Jay Mitch out there in Detroit. All right, Matt, deep breath, my man. Let's bring it back. Bring it back home here, right? A little shot of Gatorade, maybe if you need that. Maybe a couple orange slices to regroup. Give us all of your winners and your DFS lineup.
Chiefs, Bills, Lions, Eagles, and my Green Bay Packers. My DFS goes Flacco, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, Brandon Cooks, Mike Evans, Debo Light, David Njoku, Najee Harris, and the Green Bay D.
Debo Light, Jalen Reed, excuse me. I appreciate that pick. And again, Matt, pulling for you, my man. Bobo, wrap it up with us. All of your winners and your DFS lineup.
So I take all the favorites except the Rams over the Lions. So I'm taking all the favorites otherwise. My DFS line, I'm going with the Brown stack because that's what America's all about with the Flacco Ford. Like Ford, what's more American than that? Najee Harris is my RB2, unfortunately. Then I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Wicks, or Davion. What is it? Davion?
Dontavian.
Yeah, Dontavian Wicks, Tucker Kraft, Dallas Goedert, and the Chiefs defense.
And I hope Dontavian Wicks goes for 40 touchdowns. And I'm wrong about DFS.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm going to take
three. I'll take 3.
I'm going to take the under on 40, but if you're going to go 4, then I'll go over on the 4. Let's just hope the Packers don't score 5. That's how that works there. Bob with a quick Swampson Samsonite, it was right there on the tip of your tongue. You were so close.
Thank you.
I'm going to go stick with our boy Jamie. I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to get the upset with the Houston Texans. I'm going to go with Kansas City to take care of Miami at home and return to form. And then I'm going to go Buffalo to take care of Pittsburgh, although I think that one could be close, folks. On the NFC side, I'm going to take Philadelphia over Tampa Bay. I just think the talent finally runs out, and Derek brought it up with the experience there, so I'll take the Eagles over the Bucks. I'm going to go with the Lions in a squeaker. This is my field goal walk-off game. I'm going to take the Lions over the Rams in a close one. And then, unfortunately, I do think Wick scores 4 touchdowns for the Packers, but unfortunately, I think Dak scores 5 for the Cowboys, and they get that W there. So I'll take the Cowboys, and then my DFS lineup is Goff, Ford, Warren, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Godwin, Debo Light, Jalen Reed. I'm going to go with Kelsey at my tight end position. I'll spend up there. Demarcus Robinson is my deep throw, and then we're going to go with the Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. All right, we got Bo Melton getting a shout-out as well, man. There's so many opportunities there for those Green Bay Packers, and Njoku is one of the Browns you want in your lineups. I know we have one of those there for Derek as well. Gentlemen, always a great opportunity here. Folks, of course, we are not doing our Sunday live shows anymore. Let's pour one out for our Sunday live show. The most fun part of my entire week, absolutely. But we're going to save those, come back for September, so stick with us for those coming back. But we do have episodes on the program with us in a quad box all season long, but we have a number of other shows. Bob hosts a couple of shows. We got the Dynasty Diehards. We have a number of these opportunities coming out throughout the weeks. And always our articles. The 4 of us are in a really fun series right now. Bob, maybe you can preview this on our way out here in a second of our recaps and our fantasy awards and all that people can look forward to. But all of our articles available at football.razzball.com for free. And you can also find us on the podcast, those of you on the go or just not keeping up with your fantasy content in the off season, because some of us have lives. If you're not doing that, you can catch up all of our articles retroactively after the fact on the Razzball Fantasy Football show on the podcast side. And of course, catch us live. We're going to stick with Tuesday nights here with the 4 of us, but you can catch the rest of us as well. We're going to go back around the horn one more time. Derek, Matt, Bob, I want one thing you're most looking forward to in the playoffs. For football, just NFL purposes, for fantasy, big upset. What's a game that you want to go one direction, even if you're not thinking it will happen that way? Give us one thing you're looking forward to the most in a wild card weekend, Super Bowl wild card weekend. And then, Bob, I'm going to have you run us out here and preview our fantasy awards show. Derek, I'll start with you.
Yeah, one thing I would love to see, I don't think we will, but I'd love to see the Detroit Lions make it to the Super Bowl versus the Cleveland Browns. That would be so much fun. That would be so much fun.
As a football fan and as some of us OGs with gray hair, all 4 of us have been along long enough to not see the Browns or the Lions outside of a season or 2 my entire life be relevant in football. So that would be a dream come true there as well. Maddie, how about you, bud?
I am here for the game in which the Dallas Cowboys get throttled. It's going to happen. I hope it's the first week. I don't think it will be. I will take a walk-off, and that will be throttle enough for me. But I am here to shut the entire state of Texas up when the job is handled by the right team and Dallas has to go back to square one.
Love that. I'm in it with you. Bobo?
Yeah, I think it's really to see what comes out of the AFC. If the Chiefs are truly no longer the alpha team? Is it finally time for Lamar or Josh Allen or someone to emerge? Because the only other guy to do it in the last half decade was Joe Burrow, who's not in it. So I'm excited to see if Mahomes and company actually don't make it to the Super Bowl and if one of those guys can really emerge, or is it just the same old shit? And Kansas City figures it out and they make it to the Super Bowl again. So I'm excited to see if one of those guys can really step up and lead their team to a Super Bowl.
I agree. The 4 teams that seem to be chalk on betting lines, and you do this with March Madness brackets all the time. It's really hard not to have 4 number 1 seeds in your Final Four kind of thing, but we know it never shakes out that way, or very rarely does. I think it happened a couple years ago, actually. But Baltimore, San Francisco, Dallas, and Buffalo being the 1s and 2 seeds, is that just the auto Final Four? Probably not. So which of these other teams is going to knock off one of those other teams who has the home field advantage in all of those matchups until those 4 potentially play each other? So for me, it's always exciting to see which of these 7 seeds, 6 seeds, 5 and 4 seeds can knock off one of those top 3 potentially. Is it Green Bay over Dallas? Is it Pittsburgh over Buffalo? Maybe we all have Philadelphia. Maybe it's Cleveland over Houston this week. Does Miami shock the world? Can the Rams stay hot and get over Detroit in that big matchup there? So always like to see those upsets and see how it works that direction. So we're going to roll into our second round next week. And of course, we'll start previewing where we get to the Super Bowl. But for now, that's all of our wild card picks and Super Bowl or Super Wild Card weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday football this week again, folks, until we get down to the Sundays games. Bob, why don't you go ahead and run us out and let everyone know what you have the preview on the website, your other shows coming up, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, man. Just make sure you're jumping on to the Razzball. Go ahead, Matt.
Mitch Haniger's back with the Mariners. Go ahead.
I did see that, and that was interesting that we shipped him back, and he didn't even play for the Giants, but maybe Mitch Staniger will be back for Razzball. We'll see if we can pick him up in free agency.
Wow, that would be a lot cooler if it was that. Anyway, back to football content. Yeah, go check it out. We're actually doing our fantasy football superlatives by position, breaking down all the fantasy busts and steals over the next few weeks by position, just so everybody can kind of get an understanding of what the hell happened to these guys, especially those busts. Can we avoid doing it again next year? That's kind of the point of these articles over the next few weeks. Then make sure you check out our weekly rankings. All these guys will be ranking by position. We're doing our top 150 way too early. We'll be doing plenty of mock drafts on the podcast side. And we have Dynasty Diehards on Wednesdays. But this Thursday, I'll be doing some Dynasty stuff. Me and Richard Sickles will be on there breaking down some 5 Dynasty running backs that you should go get. And we're going to talk about their price points and what you should acquire for them. So it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks for joining me. You should go follow these guys everywhere at Sky Gawasco, at Derek Favorite, _Favorite, and at Styles08. Follow me at Bobby Lamarco. Thanks for joining once again, guys. We are out of here.